It was one of those bitterly cold evenings when the streets felt lonelier than ever. Snowflakes swirled under the dim streetlights, and the wind carried the sharp bite of winter through the narrow alleys of a quiet suburban town. On the edge of a deserted street, a 17-year-old boy named Liam huddled in his worn-out hoodie, his breath forming small clouds in the air. He had just finished his part-time shift at a local gas station and was walking toward the tiny room he rented in a rundown building, his shoes soaked from the slush. He carried a small paper bag with a discounted sandwich inside, his only meal for the night. As he turned the corner near the highway exit, he noticed a sleek black luxury car pulled over on the shoulder, its hazard lights blinking. Inside, a man in his 50s sat behind the wheel, clearly frustrated. Liam hesitated for a moment. He was used to being invisible, ignored by most people who drove cars like that. But then he saw the man step out, struggling to get cell service in the freezing wind. Something inside Liam stirred. He knew that feeling, being stranded, helpless, and unseen. "Hey, sir, need some help?" Liam called out, his voice trembling in the cold. The man turned, surprised. His tailored coat and polished shoes looked wildly out of place on the icy roadside. "Yeah, my car just died. Battery, I think, and my phone can't get a signal here." "I know a trick," Liam said, jogging closer. "I work at the gas station. We jump cars all the time." The man watched as the teen confidently examined the car. Liam spotted the battery issue almost instantly. "I live a few blocks away. I have jumper cables. I can run and get them." The man hesitated. "It's freezing. I don't want you to." "I'll be back in 5 minutes," Liam said, already sprinting down the street. True to his word, Liam returned, panting, with an old set of jumper cables he'd bought from a thrift store for emergencies. His fingers were numb, but he worked carefully, connecting the batteries from a nearby parked truck he borrowed from a neighbor. Within minutes, the luxury car roared back to life. The man's face shifted from frustration to amazement. "You just saved my night, kid." Liam grinned faintly. "No problem, sir. Glad I could help." He started to pull away, ready to disappear into the shadows like he always did. "Wait," the man called. "What's your name?" "Liam," he said quietly. "I'm Richard Lawson," the man said, extending his hand. "Thank you, Liam. I owe you one. How can I repay you?" Liam shook his head. "You don't need to. I just like helping people when I can." Richard stared at him for a moment, really seeing him for the first time. Liam's hoodie was thin, his shoes falling apart, and his hands were red from the cold. "Where do you live?" "Just around the block," Liam said, hesitating. "It's nothing fancy." Richard followed him as Liam led him to the dilapidated building where he rented a single room. Richard couldn't believe his eyes. The hallway smelled of dampness, and Liam's room was barely big enough for a mattress, a blanket, and a small crate he used as a table. "You live here?" Richard asked softly. Liam nodded, embarrassed. "It's not much, but it's better than the street. My parents, well, they're not around anymore." Richard was silent for a long moment. He was a CEO of a major tech company, used to boardrooms, wealth, and comfort, but nothing had prepared him for this. He thought about the warmth of his mansion, the meals waiting in his kitchen, and the Christmas decorations his family had just put up. And here was a kid who had helped him without expecting a thing, surviving in a world that had given him almost nothing. Minutes later, Richard made a decision that would change Liam's life forever. "Listen, Liam," he said. "I was on my way to an important meeting tonight, but I think this meeting, this moment, is more important. I want to help you." Liam blinked in disbelief. "Help me? How?" "Come with me," Richard said. "Let's get you out of this cold first." Within an hour, Liam was sitting in the back of the luxury car, wrapped in a warm blanket Richard kept in the trunk. They drove to Richard's home, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of town, lit with golden lights against the snowy night. Liam's eyes widened as they stepped inside. He had never seen a place so warm, so alive. Richard's wife gasped softly when she saw the shivering teen. After hearing the story, she immediately prepared a hot meal for Liam, who tried to eat slowly but couldn't hide his hunger. That night, Richard let Liam stay in the guest room, the softest bed he had ever felt. He slept like he hadn't in years. The next morning, Richard asked Liam about his life, his dreams, and his struggles. By the end of the conversation, he offered him something more than just temporary shelter. He offered him a job at his company's warehouse, support for school, and the mentorship Liam desperately needed. Months passed, and Liam's life began to transform. He worked hard, studied harder, and earned the respect of everyone at Richard's company. He moved into a small apartment that Richard helped arrange, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged. Years later, Liam stood in front of a crowd at a company event, now a confident young man managing a team of his own. He looked out into the audience and saw Richard smiling proudly. His voice cracked as he said, "I was just a boy walking home one cold night when I met a man whose car had broken down. I thought I was helping him, but he's the one who changed my life forever." Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can lead to the greatest miracles. Shorter, emotionally stronger version. Liam, a poor teen, trudged home in the freezing snow when he saw a luxury car stranded on the roadside. Its driver, Richard Lawson, a wealthy CEO, was stuck with a dead battery. Liam ran home for jumper cables, saving the man's night with nothing but a shy smile. When Richard saw where Liam lived, a damp, tiny room with only a mattress, his heart broke. That night he took Liam home, fed him, and gave him warmth. Weeks later, he gave him a job, mentorship, and a chance to rebuild his life. Years later, Liam stood successful and confident, telling a crowd, "I thought I was helping him that night, but he's the one who saved me." A single act of kindness had transformed his world.